morning, everyone. So, like the other videos, this one will be about minions. There are tons of minions and peons and whatnot in Neverborn, especially when you add in that Collodi can take every effigy and puppets. So, I'm not even, I don't even have the mannequin or um, call free cards to talk about. Commenting on them, I think the mannequin look good. I don't like call free. I don't plan on using them early on. They just seem kind of shitty to me, but I know people like them. I just don't love them myself. Here's a list of things I won't be talking about because I think they're not good for Collodi. Will-O-Wisps, you don't have really good 2-action. Walled Geist are too slow and not very good attacking. Depleted, don't need them. Blackblood Shaman, no. Insidious Madness, probably not. Wicked Dolls are pretty awful. Alps, nope. Young Nephilim, nope. Terratos, nope. Gups, nope. Definitely not Gups. Alright, so now that those are out, and as I said before with like enforcers, first pass is just I'm not gonna waste my time trying them right now. Um, just because. So I have some other things in my hand. Let's talk about the effigies real quick. So I have 6 effigy cards. I don't have the Karen effigy card. I don't remember the thing being that great. Um, Brutal and Arcane are the two go-tos because Brutal is, you heal one every time you do damage, and you kill something, you draw a card. Great for Collodi. And Arcane is it gives burning. When you do damage, if the enemy doesn't pitch a card, it does burning, which is really nice for Collodi because it's like basically +1 damage in a sense. But also because it has a 1 action to remove conditions. So if like Collodi is ever paralyzed or slowed or something, you can remove the condition from him. Um, yeah, so those two are pretty much the best ones in my opinion. Some of the other ones deserve some praise. Lucky Effigy is actually a pretty decent healing one for Collodi. You are flipping a pretty good amount of cards, especially if you and like Stitch as well are flipping a lot of cards, especially if they focus. So every ram heals, so you don't just have to do damage. So the Lucky has and I guess the knife is pretty good with like changelings because it's 3, 4, 7. Shadow Effigy, I think this one is better. I don't know why this one seems really annoying versus a lot of crews because you can basically give your whole entire crew a condition that you can make the enemy on a negative flip, right? After they choose to attack you. So pretty much forces everybody to focus you, or when the important attack comes, you just make it negative, and then it probably misses at that point, or at least they can't cheat it. All right, so he's annoying. Mysterious Effigy. It's after resolving an enemy attack which targeted this model, may end this condition to push 3 inches in direction. Collodi has that built in on his defense trigger, but a crew full of people that whether you hit or miss them, you get to move 3 inches seems pretty good. Hodgepodge. After you kill an enemy model, you may discard a card for a soul stone. Also, doesn't seem too bad. Um, yeah, it seems. I'm looking at someone. It seems fine. Like all of them seem potentially pretty good in their own way. I still think Arcane and Brutal take the cake most of the time. But if you ever summon some of them, with Bag of Props, there are some definitely situational ones that are really good. I mean, effigies in general are just really solid minions. I mean, they're 4 stones. They're puppets. They can get the fast. They're hard to kill. They're armor 1. None of these things are like bad. Um, they're really obnoxious scheme runners because they're like all defense 6, or are they all 6? They're all like the same stat line. So defense 6, armor 1, hard to kill is so it takes a lot of AP for a full 4 stone model to die. So you're always going to take at least 1 or 2. It'd be hard pressed not to take Arcane and Brutal, even in Bag of Props list, because I think those two stacked on Collodi are really good. But at the same time, the other ones, I mean, there's definitely moments where you could justify taking 2 to 4 effigies to start because there are only 4 stones. I mean, if you think about it, the mannequins, or not mannequins, the marionettes are 3 stones. Like, what do marionettes really do better than the effigies? They're both personal puppets, right? They're both puppets. One is less stones, one has armor and accomplice, and I mean there are some nice things on marionettes. Don't get me wrong, and there's stone left. I mean it is. can be significant and add up, but I think effigies have a place as well. Sorry. All right. So those are those explained. Those are pretty much go-to things. So really, it's about picking your minions that go with Collodi. If you do like the faded build, and even if you, yeah, I guess if you don't do faded, yeah, if you don't do faded, some of these minions really aren't that useful. We'll try to go through this not too slowly. So Beckoner, 7 stone with a lure. That's the only reason I'd ever pick this over maybe a Lily too is that Collodi can actually obey it to lure. But with a doppelganger, you can just copy the lure. It's a 6 as opposed to everything else is kind of mediocre on her for 7 stones. So while I put her in the maybe list, I think she's pretty much in the not gonna happen list. Silurids, we all know, we all love them. I'm not sure if this is only stake a claim would I ever really consider a Silurid. And I'm not even sure if Collodi can't just do it better with fast models. Maybe one Silurid to jump around and stuff, but I don't even know if he needs it. Alright. Fuck it. So those are like the maybe ones, the ones where you're like, maybe they'll come in useful once in a while. What else we got? Illuminated. I think these are really good against gremlins. So they do have terrifying, which is like I said before, I really like having a terrifying model in Collodi Crew because you can make people shoot them and fail terrifying. It is against living only, so it's not very good against rezzers, but it's very good against gremlins. Why else are they good against gremlins? One, obviously terrifying. 10 living is annoying for them. They regen 1, they have a self heal to heal up, and they have armor 1. So it's not that easy to take them down in one shot unless you have like Glowy McTavish. And if you don't, it takes a lot of models to kill them. And in Gremlins, I told you that's a card sink when you need to keep passing terrifying checks on multiple models. They do 2, 4, 5 with melee 6. They can give people brilliance. It's not that easy though. There is a nice setup you could possibly do with Collodi where if the target is straight in front of you, Collodi could puppet the illuminated, make it shoot, give it, which gives them brilliance, and then charges and does 4 min. So there are situations where maybe they'd be really good. They have a very far charge range of 10, and they can't get fast from Collodi, but there are moments where you could puppet them to move them and then charge on their turn. And they do 2, 4, 5, and they have flay. They seem like solid minions, and they're one I'm kind of like I don't know when I would take it, but they seem pretty good. Joel Henry swears by Ronin in his list, which costs 7 in this case. I won't be trying them anytime soon, but I don't think they're awful, I guess. All right. What else we got? Changelings. I mean, Changelings is basically can be summoned by the emissary, but it's mainly for the trapper spam, where you take a trapper, 2 changelings, and then it copies its attacks. You get focus from Collodi. Collodi can puppet all of them once. So, like, if you had Collodi and 3 changelings and a trapper, Collodi takes his first action and focuses, then he my wills the 3 of them, and they all shoot. And then in their turn, they all focus and shoot. So it's like 6 shots or something. I'm not saying it's amazing. I'm not saying it's bad. It's probably okay in Collect the Bounty or Reckoning. I do not like the idea of the list. I think it's boring. I think it's stupid. I don't. I will have it in my arsenal. I hope that I don't have to use it very often because I think it's stupid. I like stupid as in like it's just not my style. Um, it's just not my style. So, um, I definitely think it's useful. I think it's kind of abused by weaker players, and they use it a lot in bad situations, and then they get crushed by good people. Because it's not like it's ruining the world. Like I don't like for how like great it seems on paper. I definitely don't hear a lot about like bitching about it among good players. They're not like, oh, it's crushing me every time I play it. It seems very like corner case, but maybe it's not being used a lot against good players because it does have issues scheming and whatnot, and it does force Collodi to stay back and you're not using his attack. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's a 2/4/5. It's a sniper with 2/4/5 with focus, so it's 3 cards, and then plus the damage. But it's only like it's shot 4 with no triggers, so there's a point where just like flipping a high card is just gonna beat it. Like you really need to keep something alive, you just flip the high card. And you can always focus on. It doesn't matter. That's the changeling. It's yeah, it is what it is. It's a changeling. But there are some cute things you can do with it, especially if you summon summon them like with the emissary, then they're closer to enemy models, and you can like copy like Lilith's attack and stuff. So the next one, so we'll do Sorrow next. So Sorrows are interesting. They're very easy to hit. They're incorporeal. You know, they have Misery. They have Life Leech, so if they end next to people. I think Sorrows are pretty good against Gremlins unless you play Wong. If you play Wong, then Wong, like everybody one-shots them. So you got to be a little careful. But the good and bad of them, probably the good is Misery Loves Company, the place in base to base with a model. Well, obviously that's good because you can get right close to them. So if they activate, they take a wound. But not only that, if you get in the middle, if you have a Sorrow 2 and you get in the middle of an enemy crew, Collodi becomes like 4, 5, 6 damage with every attack, and you can just obliterate like. Oh, so Life Leech actually stacks too. So if you have 2 Sorrows next to somebody, they'll take 2 damage. So yeah, Sorrows, if they get in there and Collodi's like tearing them apart, like you can do a lot of damage. And they can do the paralyzed thing. I mean, that's not bad if you get them close enough. Like Collodi, like in theory, not that this would happen all the time, Collodi could obey them to like Misery Loves Company to one of your models and within 6 of the enemy, or that make the enemy walk towards you with your with his triggers, and then they can paralyze it or try to. So they're interesting. I think the damage multiplication could be really nice, but they are pretty easy to kill if you have a strong hit. They're only defense 3. Watch out for being blasted off of. We'll do these last. So we have the 3 Fey minions, Thorntooth, Claw. They're all basically the same on the front of the card, right? I think they're all exactly the same on the front of the card. They are. They all have that slow on 13. Um, hard to wound armor 1, 7. So it is nice that they are minions because they do benefit from Collodi buffs and being puppeted. Uh, so I think the one that is the most useful that I've heard was, which one is it? Is it this one? Is it the Thorn? The Thorn, because it has, so the Thorn has a 3-inch melee, which is nice. 1, 3, 4 ignore armor. Ignore armor is actually pretty sweet in this kind of crew. If it's within 2 inches in line of sight of at least one scheme marker friendly to this model, draw a card. So one thing that's nice about that is you could drop a scheme marker like a mannequin and then hit Collodi, and Collodi would push 3 inches from the hit and you draw a card. You just got to hope you get weak damage, so it's 1, 3, 4 and not, destroyed by, if he gets hit by the severe or the moderate, sucks because he's going to take 3 damage. He can heal it back with the effigies, so, especially if he's going like really deep, you're drawing all the cards, you're getting in there, and your 4 AP or at least 3 of your AP is used on attacks, you're probably going to heal at least 3, assuming you have the high cards to spend. So, so it's not that bad an idea. It's pretty cute in its own right. And then then you're drawing cards, and if you draw bad cards, the marionettes can push Collodi. So you can really get up there in your face. Especially, you can also push like Lazarus. Like she wouldn't be bad to like hit Lazarus since you only do 1 damage if you hit Lazarus, except unless you hit the severe. So you don't get to push anything, but at least you get a card for free. Yeah. All right, so that's pretty cool. The other one is you get plus to damage if they're within at least 1 ski marker friendly to this model. All right. So yeah, plus the damage with 1, 3, 4 ignore armor is not bad. They have a challenge, range 8. Push 8 inch towards this model, then place the enemy ski marker. So you push forward, and then you can start whacking on them for cards. And they have a 0 to discard card and push it base with the ski marker. So that one's probably the most useful because of that draw action's pretty nice. Just the 2, 3, 4. The claw has a 2, 3, 4 gun with a trigger that gets plus damage flip. Do they all have brambles? They all have that trigger. So it's all about the other trigger. Place a ski marker. Don't care. The claws attacks really aren't that special in my opinion. The other one's 2-inch melee, 2, 3, 4. Then this model may push the target. You can push away. Built-in triggers for a scheme marker. They all have the same triggers? No, two have the same triggers. One has the draw a card one, and they have different challenges. Yeah, I think of the three, if you're gonna use one, the Thorn is probably the most useful because of ignore armor and drawing cards built in. So that's my opinion on that one. You could also, yeah, hitting Collodi to push him 3 and draw a card can be pretty nice. She's walk 5. I feel you get the sense you worry, are you losing out on something else? You know, because you're not walking. Is it worth a 7-stone model's action to draw a card? I don't know, but it's worth a try, I guess. 2 models left. I do not have the Blood Wrench card. They seem okay, but you probably need Aeonius to make them fast, or else you're not drawing a lot of cards. So I'm not even going to talk about that one. Ragout, whatever. So it's a 5 defense, 5 willpower, 9 wound model. They're big ass models for minion. They're height 3 minions that are 8 stones. At the start of this model's activation, it may discard target fairly scheme marker within 3 inches to choose to heal 2 damage or push 3 inches in any direction. Obviously, not bad if you have scheme markers. Gives you a reason to place some scheme markers down with marionettes and stuff. They're hard to kill, which is always nice, especially since Collodi's effigy buffs can use it to heal. It has pounce. There's a couple cases where pounce can be useful if you have like a lure in the list or its own like tactical actions. The thorn thing can also be pounced off of. Engagement range of 2. Okay, so at least has a nice pounce range. So it has 1 melee, 6, 2-inch range, 2-4-6, good damage track. It gets plus flips if it has a ram. It has 2 zeros. Challenge to the alpha. So it's a 7 to go off. All animals within 4 must pass the target. 13 willpower duel or be pushed in base contact, which means he gets to pounce on all of them. And after succeeding and after completing all pushes, place a small base combat that pass the check. So if you bring a bunch in and then send it out. Target model within 2 inches must take a toughness 13 willpower duel. This is the other 0. If this fails, this model gets a 1 attack against it. So it's a free attack if they fail a check. So the Ragout seem really good. 5 defense, 9 wounds is not the easiest to kill, but it's not the hardest. It's also hard to kill with the ability to eat a scheme marker to heal. Above hard to kill is nice, and you always have Collodi to give them some sort of buff to heal back when they do damage, especially if their 0 goes off and they pull everybody in, and then they get a bunch of attacks. So he's definitely seems like a fun one to try versus some lists. I feel like he'd be pretty good into gremlins, just because of all the willpower checks to pull in. And if you have a sorrow, that's a lot of checks as well. So obviously a nice minion to try. And the last one, everybody's favorites, the most used one, it seems like, is Stitched Together. 6 stones, pretty cheap for their cost. 4 defense, 7 wounds, hard to kill. I mean, they're not that hard to kill as far as like they're 4 defense, but the thing is, they can be healed, as with everything faded can be healed. I'll keep saying that. They are puppets, so they can go fast with Collodi, so they do get that benefit. Almost everything else had talked about today can't go fast because they're not puppets. Eternal Nightmare, they get reactivated if they get down to 1, which is pretty annoying for other people because they get down to 1, then they heal back up when they reactivate because they have the burning or the brutal emissary or the lucky, because they do flip a lot of cards. And you always got to worry about them like hitting themselves. So after suffering damage, this model may flip an X. Oh yeah, all living models, whatever. They have a shitty melee. Target enemy game of chance. It's 5 willpower. The winner draws 2 cards. This action may only be taken once per turn. All right, whatever. tails you after failing draw. So if you have like a 1 of crows, you could cycle it theoretically. But everyone, I mean, it's gamble your life. That's what everyone does. It's target stuff for 3, 4, 7. If this model fails, this action, the opposing player makes 2 or 7 flip against the model. This model. Damage flips general, but this no cheated. Ignore all plus or minus. I mean, it's just a straight up big damage, but it's a risk. It's a card sink. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing to note about it. Is you really are taking a chance if you don't if you're not willing to invest your high cards in it. So if you are, it's great, but you're always taking that risk. Obviously, it has very good uses against some crews. That it's very obnoxious to just keep getting gambled, especially since loser ties, like ties, go to the attacker. So being a 6, you have a way better chance of winning. It's not bad with my will. You get plus flips to it, so better chance at high cards. It is min 3, so I don't know. I've seen people my will this thing as opposed to Collodi. I guess one advantage of it is you have the chance of a 7 if you hit the severe, and a 4 is on a moderate as opposed to less. So I guess if you don't really care about the trigger, well, then it's 7 versus willpower defense. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to use Collodi's versus this, or vice versa. So it's all situational. But for 6 stones, like having a pair of these guys is really good, really obnoxious for the enemy, because it's one of those, you either kill them, right? You kill them and you get them low enough to reactivate, and then you risk, like, it's a risk. You either kill them all the way, or you risk like just giving them more activations and them healing back up. If you do a fatalist, obviously I would take at least 2 of these guys. The minions are definitely revolved around fatalist. If you took a bag of prop Swiss, I would probably not take as many minions, and I would more likely take some marionettes and some hodgepodge as my minions, maybe not hodgepodge, effigies as my minions, and then go more for the doppelganger and Lazarus route, stuff like that, like Iggy. But I do think Iggy can work in a minion list because not every minion needs to stay in the bubble. Um, Closing thoughts on the whole minion thing. People say he can't do reckoning, and he has trouble with some of these like schemes, and and blasters like really mess up Collodi. And my question is, what forces you to take a bunch of minions? Obviously he has faded, which buffs minions around him, and I've argued in my other video about how focus on Stitch is not that amazing. Yeah, it's nice to get plus to attacks, but if you're gonna, there's a point in me where I'm like, well, I'm not gonna risk my Stitch if I don't have the high card in hand. But maybe I'm not as big a gambler to take Stitched. Focus on marionettes is not the best. It's fine if you're gonna fast walk charge and want to heal back. So I mean, there are uses to all these things on minions, but sometimes I think it's like, if you're against a really good blaster, and I know you won't know if you are, so I guess there's something there, but you don't have to play in the bubble like all the time. That's what I don't get. People like really like succumb themselves to, I have to do this, I have to play in this little bubble, and to that I say, why not just play a little bit outside that? Collodi himself, if you took away my will, he would still be a fucking good master. Like, his attack action just makes him a good master. I don't know why. Like, just because you're not using his my will a lot or his faded ability, which gives out things, doesn't mean he's bad. He's still good without it. So that's my little comment on that. uh, but yeah, sorry, what did I talk about? Oh yeah, hopefully I get a game in tomorrow, and I will take him to the tournament this weekend. So I'll probably have a good. It's 4-game tournament, so I'll have some good stories. I should get at least 5 to 6 games of Collodi in the next week, which will be good. So then I'll have a lot more to talk about on Sunday when the tournament's over, and I'll be able to tell you guys what I think. I don't know what my list will be yet. I'm hopefully I do get the game in or 2 before the tournament, so I have some idea of what I'm doing, because when I think about things, as I said, there's a progress. And when you think about learning crews, like, you read all the cards, you get a general idea of what they do and what you think you can do. Then you got to play a game and see how positioning works, and really see like how the threat ranges works and how enemies play against you. And then you kind of go into the schemes and strats motion, where you really have a general sense of how your crew works and then how you're going to accomplish everything. Um, it's a process. It's a fun process. Uh, But without playing a game, you can only do so much sitting here and playing with your cards. Like, I kind of have settled on some things I want to try just based on my knowledge of the game. But besides that, until you get it on the board, sometimes you don't know how good it is, as we can see with some gremlin models, like fingers and taxidermists and stuff. Until you really play with it and be like, wow, that actually does the really well, or it's the other way around where you're like, wow, that really wasn't as good as I thought it would going to be. Uh, that's how I feel right now. I mean, I know he's good. It's just seeing how good it's going to be. Anyway, thanks for listening.